category is actually somewhat related. So it says a diet of high glycemic foods. So what does that mean? And I think some people are familiar and some people are probably not familiar with that terminology. There is an index called the glycemic index. It's like a rating scale. And what it talks about is when you eat a particular food, how quickly does your blood sugar spike? Okay, so if you were to eat a piece of white bread or a white potato, those are at the top of the rating scale. So you go and you have a French fry, or a piece of, God forbid, Wonder Bread, and your sugar spikes up immediately. Okay, that's very unhealthy for the body. We definitely need to have things that create glucose and sugar in our body to fuel us. But when we eat certain things that cause this type of a spike, then it can contribute to disease. That's an inflammatory process. We want to be able to have a diet that has a gentle rise and a gentle valley, and no major peaks. Okay? And I don't know if any of you have seen that great movie, Super Size Me, that came out probably about 10 years ago. It's an awesome movie. For those of you that haven't seen it, it's a documentary. And it's really a science project by this big, strapping Texan man who was engaged, I think, to a vegan chef. And he decided to do this exercise using himself as a guinea pig, where he essentially went to McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He did it for 30 days, I think. I can't remember exactly how long. And prior to doing the 30-day, I guess you'd call it a diet, he had all kinds of tests, physical tests, liver enzyme tests, all kinds of different physiologic markers to determine his level of health. And he was determined to be very, very healthy and very fit. And then as he went through this period of time, I think it was 30 days, every week or so he went back and he had all the tests redone. And at the end of it, of course, they deemed him near dead. Of course. What would be the point of the movie otherwise? And they begged him to stop this crazy diet. But there was this one scene in the movie that I so appreciated. He was sitting on the couch. It was like midway through this 30-day period, and he was sitting in his apartment on the couch, like literally sedentary. He was like melting into the crevice between the cushions of the couch. He was so lethargic. Lots of us feel lethargic, so this is not unusual, but he was just so different than how he was in the beginning of the movie. So lethargic. He had definitely a bit of a bloated abdomen compared to what he had looked like, a couple of weeks prior. And he was depressed. I would say clinically depressed. I mean, really just down in the dumps, like, borderline suicidal. Some of the comments that he was making, like, I don't really want to do that. It was very, very depressing and awful to watch. And then it's like, it's almost time for lunch. And the next scene in the movie, he is completely manic. I mean, it was as if there was a bipolar disorder that was created. He was jumping off the wall. He was so hyper and excitable. And that was after having, obviously, some very processed food, but also a lot of refined sugars and high glycemic, high carbohydrate foods. So the glycemic index, and on your anti-inflammatory diet packet, there's a couple of website addresses to go online and find rating scales that you can plug in the food and see where it falls on the index. But ideally, we don't want to be eating a diet that is filled with high glycemic foods. So white bread, white potato, but also certain types of fruit are very high glycemic. No fruit can be bad. But it's all about excess and how much are we eating. Are we eating high glycemic fruits on a regular basis, or high glycemic vegetables, or high glycemic foods? Are we gravitating towards foods that are higher in sugar that are going to spike our blood sugar and contribute to inflammation and therefore disease? So that particular scale can help you to learn what foods are going to create more of that gentle rise, the ebb and flow. And certain fruits, for example, that are considered low glycemic are berries. Blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, even strawberries. They're considered to be lower glycemic. They're delicious, especially when they're in season and less expensive than buying them in the winter. But they're good fruits to have on a regular basis, and they have plenty of antioxidants and all kinds of healthy features. So a diet of high glycemic foods is definitely inflammatory.